Please unmute Rebecca, Will, if you're there.
We're one away from quorum, I'll let you know. We're good.
All right, let's get started. So welcome everybody to the May Land Use Committee meeting of Community Board 8. So we will get right into the first item, which is a discussion of a transit easement request, or sorry, the removement of a transit easement. So let's turn it over to the applicant and Jordan Most.
Hi, good evening. I assume I'm unmuted. You can hear me now, okay?
We hear you. Yep.
Great. So as you stated, this is an application seeking a joint certification pursuant to zoning resolution section 94-041 from the City Planning Commission and the MTA. And I know you've heard these applications in the past and sort of know some of the background of this particular provision and the nature of how it relates to the Second Avenue subway. The request is from the City Planning Commission and really the MTA as to whether a transit easement volume is required in connection with a new development. This is a certification. It's a non-ULURP matter, just so that's clear. The development site here is a flag-shaped parcel, and I guess I'm going to share my screen so you can see. There, let's see, where is my? There we are, and. There, sorry. So there's a little narrative there that you can sort of read along, but I'm going to show you, I'll come back to that slide in a moment. I want to show you where the site is. Here's where the site is. This flag-shaped parcel at the southwest corner of 2nd Avenue and East 72nd Street. A portion of the site is a through lot, as you can see, that runs between East 72nd and East 71st Streets. The site is primarily located in R10 or R10 equivalent zoning districts, and the site is also located, of course, in the special transit area land use district. You can see that's the dotted hatch here on the tax map, and we're sort of at the southwest corner of the transit area special district, and being located in there is of course what triggers the need for this application. Plans for the development to be located on the site have not been filed at the Department of Buildings, just to be clear. I'll get back to the building, although that's not really what this application is about. This application is, of course, about whether or not a transit volume is required here as really is deemed by the MTA. Phase 1, of course, of the 2nd Avenue subway was completed in 2017, and the new stations located at 72nd, 86, and 96th Streets came online then. The site, and I'll go to another slide here, the site. So here it is again. So north is going to your right as you look up Second Avenue. So the site is located very close to two major points of entry to the 72nd Street subway. There's, of course, I'll just start with the same order that they present them. This is a map that comes from MTA that I've added some information on. So entrance 1 is the farthest away from the site. That's 2 stairs located in the sidewalk down on the east side of 2nd Avenue at 69th Street. Then entrance 2 is located directly across the across 72nd Street from the site. That has 3. It's sort of in a modern MTA structure. It includes ancillary space, which is noted as that's the orange space, but it includes 3 escalators and is sort of open to 2nd Avenue and 72nd Street. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the spot, or maybe all of you. And there are 3 escalators running down to the subway. And then the third entrance is a 5 elevator bank in a small MTA structure across 2nd Avenue from the site. So we have these three locations, and MTA, the application was submitted in late April to city planning or late March, and then by the end of April, city planning had received back, and we received, and now you have a copy of the letter from the MTA. The application is, of course, referred out to the MTA and the community board, and the MTA replied with a letter dated April 27th. I think you have that in your file as well, that no transit easement volume would be required by the MTA at this location. So that's sort of that's the nuts and bolts really of the application. It's a certification, which is, like I said, is a non-ULURP item. And that's really what I've got with respect to the application and the request that no easement volume be required here.
Okay.
So I have to take questions if you need more information. I've got more.
Thank you. So we will open it up to the public and members of the board. So if you would like to ask a question or make a comment, please raise your hand and we will call on you. And I will just ask as ever, if people can be civil in their comments and concise, that would be great. So let's see who we have.
And I'll just chime in to remind, if you are not familiar with Zoom, go to the reactions icon at the bottom of your screen and press the raise hand button there. Or if you're using an older version of Zoom, it is in the participant section. And if you're calling in from the phone, it's *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute whenever you're called on.
All right, let's go to Marco Tamayo.
Thank you, Russell.
Yep.
Oh, thank you, Russell. I have 2 questions with an introduction on each. First, briefly describing this development, they are proposing to build 50 luxury apartments with an average size unit of 3,100 square feet each, whose proposed density development is only 23%, underutilizing the existing infrastructure and removing the existing easement. Also, this developer is providing 4 affordable units of 900 square feet each. However, this proposed zoning lot is not compliant with the zoning resolution, encroaching with a slip section on the zoning portion of RAB regulation. But this slip is treated as R10 regulation with more floor area benefits for the developer, as well as this developer is demolishing 28 existing affordable units. In short, this proposal is demolishing 28 affordable units to build 50 luxury apartments with 4 affordable units, so that the net gain is minus 24 affordable units, as well as an underutilized infrastructure, forming spatial segregation by a very high income and polarizing even further the social disparities, therefore increasing a social justice in our community. So fellow community members, we have to stand out for an inclusive neighborhood. And my first question is, are you willing to build 40 luxury apartments at the same rate as you are proposing, rather than 50 on the 72nd Street lot? By the way, this is one zoning lot. And on the 71st Street lot, build 33 affordable units rather than 4. So we could have a net gain of 5 apartments, therefore increasing the density from 23% to 32% on your development, which is still very low density. That is my first question.
Okay, so the building is an as of right building, and the floor area that's achieved on the site is based primarily on the purchase of inclusionary housing certificates from offsite locations. So while you characterized the project as such, that there's a building like this encourages the development of affordable housing at other locations in the community district by purchasing inclusionary certificates. So, but I'm not really, I guess the answer to you asked really a very simple question. And while the application hasn't been filed at the Department of Buildings, as I said, that as I've described, that the application doesn't call for what you've requested. My understanding is that's not what the developer's interested in building. So I guess the answer to your question is
no.
No.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I reviewed the records in DOB and I didn't find anything. So my second question is, and this is the last question, in the last report about the quality of air, Manhattan and the Bronx lead in poor quality of air than the rest of the boroughs. Even though during the beginning of the pandemic period, there was a significant traffic reduction. Then the major pollutants are the buildings, which is consistent with what DOB has been saying. That is true, because most of the buildings are not sustainably designed with a poor selection of materials, and they are constructed under the concept, quote, let the buildings breathe, end of quote. This means most buildings warm up and cool the inside of them as well as the environment. Therefore, not only these construction systems are increasing the building energy loads unnecessarily, wasting energy, but also more carbon monoxide is being released into the environment, impacting negatively on the quality of air in our community. That concept must stop. Consequently, I demand from this developer to build a sustainable developer to start the reduction of carbon emissions. A passive building or net zero building is the best choice in reducing the carbon emissions. Also, even though these sustainable buildings are a little bit more expensive to build, but in the long term are less expensive because the utility bills are considerably less expensive, as well as the maintenance is very low, producing larger profits for the developer in the long term than the regular buildings. By the way, I need to clarify that the green buildings are no sustainable buildings. They are commercial certification only, and they are not recognized as a sustainable buildings by DOB. Furthermore, by the year 2030, all buildings have to reduce 40% of carbon emissions, and by the year 2050, 80% as per building code. So that the goal is to build passive building as minimum. By the way, Presently, I design and build sustainable buildings in my development. On the chart behind me from Connect Energy Report, my house is performing 28% more efficient than those similar efficient homes, therefore reducing the carbon emissions. If I can do it, everybody can do it. Then, if we want to reach that target, we need to stand out in favor to reducing carbon emissions. And my second question is, are you willing to build passive buildings or net zero buildings to start improving our quality of air?
Yeah, I'm not acquainted with, again, while we're counsel for this land use, the special transit volume, easement volume. So I don't know exactly what the building's environmental rating is, but yeah, so I'm can't really speak to that.
Okay, yeah, okay, your answer is no. So if you have some, you want to have some benefits on the community, you got to make something. That is my point of view, basically. And thank you so much for your answer.
Okay.
Let's go next to Anthony Cohn.
Okay, I have, hi, and thank you. I'll preface my remarks, neither of which are questions, with the comment that given the narrow ask that the applicant has made, which is in fact to not have to provide a transportation easement in probably what is the one spot along the entire Second Avenue subway that doesn't need one. Having said that I would, under normal circumstances, vote in favor of this with no hesitation. I think that Marco's points, both of them, are extremely well taken. And it is a shame, and I'm sort of registering just my dismay and sadness, that the developer can build an as-of-right building with an FAR of just a hair under 12, and in effect remove 23 affordable housing units from Community Board 8. And our only mechanism is to punish them by forcing them to provide a transportation easement. That's the first comment. And it's a shame. And I don't know how I can vote yes. I'll probably have to abstain since that's a no vote, sort of. But just in addition, this is sort of more that we can talk about offline, Russell and Will. I think that this is an issue that would have been good. These sort of issues would have been good to have come before zoning and development, and in fact, transportation, maybe it did, before it comes to us as a larger group. It makes it easier for a committee to have an opinion on something that is within their wheelhouse. And with that, I will pass it on to whoever is next. Thank you.
There's a 30-day window for comment on these applications, Anthony.
Let's go next to Chuck Moore.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Just 1 second here. I'd like to make a motion to approve this request, and if it's seconded, I'd like to speak to it.
Okay, is there a second?
Okay.
Larry Schneider.
Okay, go ahead.
Look, this is a fairly simple situation in the sense that they're asking for relief from this transit easement volume, and the MTA says, yes, we don't need it. So the question is, I mean, we can't make them do this. And Marco's 2 points is, I would like to also see more affordable housing in our area. But on the affordable housing point, they are, as the gentleman said, they are purchasing certificates. So they will be providing affordable housing, even though it's not in our district. And I know that's, but it's still affordable housing. On the issue of energy, which I think is also important, and I agree, it'd be nice if the building would be more energy efficient, but the law in place is going to apply. So all buildings will have to do whatever they need to do or pay big penalties. So I think those issues are being dealt with otherwise. So my view is that we ought to approve this. And as much as I think a lot of us would probably like to see some of the things that Marco wants to see, it's really not in the purview of this application.
Thank you. Let's go next to Craig later.
Could I?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes, you can.
Just a couple general, I guess, comments or clarifications with respect to, I think, what Mr. Warren said and some of the preceding people. I just want to be clear that, so that it's not really seeking relief. I guess I would characterize it. It sort of is what it is in that the MTA, we just ask, it's a request to the MTA to determine whether or not this transit volume is required or not required. If they want it, they're going to get it. If they look at it and deem that it's not required, then they don't. So it's not, there's no hardship sort of request. I just wanted to speak to that. But I guess also, as Mr. Warren also points out, that the affordable housing units, there are affordable housing units that are now sort of affiliated and related to this project. And they are in fact in the community board, because the rules require that the inclusionary housing certificates be transferred within the same community district from development to provider of the affordable housing. So they are actually, I don't have the certificates in front of me, but they are actually in CB8. And then, and based on just a quick sort of back of the envelope calculation, based on the FAR and the lot area of the site, it looks like the number of affordable units that are associated with those certificates is roughly somewhere between 25 and 30 units, probably. It could be even more. So I just wanted to put that information out there, and that's all.
Thank you.
Okay, next let's go to Craig later.
Good evening, everyone. I was just going to concur with Chuck, and I want to emphasize again that this is not a discussion about affordable housing. This is about whether there's a need for a transit easement here, and that we are recommending or concurring with the finding that no transit easement is needed because the station doesn't have any needs that an easement would be able to help fulfill. I do want to also remind everyone that there are initiatives that are taking place within the community board to pursue preservation of affordable housing. And you're probably all familiar with the fact that the Zoning and Development Committee has put forward a plan for 210-foot height limits. But I want everyone to read over the pre-application. I think it was back in March when that committee reviewed their progress. And I didn't see anything in there that really spoke to anything beyond just generic language regarding preserving low-rise buildings. So if we want to really see affordable housing preserved on 2nd Avenue, maybe we should try to figure out how we can strengthen the application to be able to achieve that if we were to move forward. Because right now I believe it's a strict 210-foot cap, and in that scenario, even these 4 units that are being proposed here wouldn't even be permitted, because the no bonus would be provided, because I don't know that it would accept the quality affordable housing program parameters that I think this is utilizing. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Rita Popper.
I'd like you to explain the affordable housing certificates, please. And where are they going to be used, and when?
Well, so yeah, like I said, I don't have the certificates in front of me, but the certificates which enable the building to go from a 10 FAR to a 12 FAR are located in Community District 8, and the certificates are negotiable certificates that can be bought by a developer of a site and sold by the builder of that affordable housing. So if someone builds a building with pursuant to the HPD's affordable housing rules, and a building that contains, let's say, 12 units and 12,000 square feet, 12,000 square feet, then it will generate a certain amount of floor area that is transferable pursuant to that certificate to a development site like this. And this isn't, of course, a unique thing. This happens throughout the city in R10 zoning districts like this, or in other districts that are known as inclusionary housing districts, which are mostly located in Brooklyn or in Queens. So in this, and you can purchase as many certificates for a particular development that would enable you to reach or achieve that 12 FAR, up to that 12 FAR. So that's sort of a very brief explanation of it. Is that adequate, or are you?
I understand what you're saying, and I want you to understand what I'm saying, is that the word affordable housing just gets bandied about. And there's nothing that's saying that those certificates, when you give them or sell them or barter them, I don't know, playing a poker game and lose them, as to what affordable housing, affordable for who.
So those, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And there was a change in the certificates from originally that it had to stay within the within a half a mile of the building where the certificates were, at play. The thing that really upset me was that the headline in the paper for this is that you're building affordable housing. That was the headline. Everybody all excited. And then you just read the first paragraph, is only 4 units. And you have no idea when those other units, those affordable units, are going to be built. And you have no idea how much they will cost. They may not be affordable to most of the people.
Could I speak to a couple of those concepts?
Yes.
Just wait a minute. Wait, sorry. Rita, are you done?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
So the certificates, the certificate is the building that generates, that we call it the generating site, the building that generates the certificates doesn't get the certificate until the building is complete. So there is no certificate to be acquired or no floor area rights to be acquired from the site that generates the affordable housing until the affordable housing actually comes online and is complete and has a certificate of occupancy, I believe is the final rule, before HPD then issues a certificate that is transferable. And then that property that generates the affordable housing is restricted to maintain affordable housing. So these aren't, you can't just unwind the affordable housing a couple of years later. There are documents that are recorded against the property that require affordable housing to be maintained there. And like I said, and also the certificate can't be generated until that affordable housing has been completed.
Thank you. I'm telling you, I will not support this because I don't like what is going on. Affordable housing has taken a back seat once again. Thank you.
Let's go next to Barbara Rutter.
Okay, can be heard now. I have some questions. So the original thought and what others have said is this has nothing to do with the building. It only has to do with the transit. Doesn't it have everything to do with the building? I mean, you wouldn't be coming to us if there wasn't a building associated with it. Am I right?
We can't get a building permit for this building, which is other than this particular request, is a building that complies, a project that complies with zoning, right? So there's no height waiver requests, there's no FAR requests or yard requests. The building complies with zoning. But because the building is located in this special transit land use district, which was mapped around locations on the Upper East Side a long time ago, when there was a vision and a hope that a Second Avenue subway would happen,
right?
That now it's happened. And that transit land use district was a way that the city was going to, and did, procure locations for access to the subway at 72nd, at 86 and 96.
I understand.
So, okay, but the building gets built either way. We make the request, we submit an application to city planning and say, this is where we're located. You've seen the application. This is where we're located. This is, you're city planning, and city planning then sends it to MTA. Your city planning and the MTA, you obviously know where the station's located. You know where the access points are located. And we want to build a building here. Do you require us to provide a transit land use access volume, easement volume? Sorry, I keep mixing up the words. The easement volume. And they look at it, they evaluate it, and they say, yay or nay. And in this case, they say no. They look at the site, and I don't mean to speak for the MTA, but they look at the site and they say, we've already got this escalator location across the street. We've got 5 elevators located across the street. We don't need another point of access here. It's not required. We're not requiring it. And let me just say that the easement volume that an applicant would provide doesn't mean I'm providing and building the stair or the elevator or the whatever it is that's required. It's we're providing the access way through our building for the MTA to construct that thing. And in this case, partially because the subway is built and these access points have been created, the MTA, it would be an enormous undertaking for the MTA to build and connect into the existing subway. And it would be a huge capital expense. I think the MTA is probably more focused on creating better access at other subway locations in the city that don't have elevators and don't have escalators. So I don't know if I've answered your question. You said, isn't it all about the building?
But they are connected. It is. I mean, you wouldn't be coming to us if there wasn't a building associated with it. So the thought is this has nothing to do with the building. It does in my mind, and I can't separate it. Okay. The second issue that I have is the MTA getting payment for this? Are they just giving it up? How does that work?
Well, all the buildings, if we look at it, it's only a partial diagram, but right, so all of the lots that are included, all these dotted parcels are all part of the transit, the transit area, and it's across 2nd Avenue. So they're giving it up. Are they giving it up? With respect to this development, they're giving it up for the moment. If far out in the future, if this building gets torn down, if the new building comes down and they want to build a new building here, the MTA would have an opportunity to revisit the question.
Okay.
Or if someone wanted to build a new building on lot 21 down here at the northwest corner of 71st and 2nd, they'll have the opportunity to revisit that question there.
So my question basically is, I'm just curious that they just say, okay, you could do it, and
I'm sorry. Yeah, you asked if they were going to get paid.
Right.
No, there's no payment. No.
And third, just so I understand, I think Rita understands better than I do. Do you have specific places where there will be affordable housing if we asked for it? I know you said you don't have it right now. Or is it just that one day it will exist?
I believe there are targeted certificates. I don't know if we've acquired them or if we've paid for them. If we paid for them, then yes. And I'll be able to tell you what the addresses are and how much floor area was generated from those sites.
And are they usually in a current walk-up, more affordable, what we consider affordable housing, like walk-up apartments, the brownstones that are walk-up?
Yes, or usually often new construction.
They're usually in new construction?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next let's go to Elaine Walsh.
Thank you. I'll follow up on a question Barbara had in reference to any payment. While you're not at this point doing any payment to the MTA, the value of your property increases when there's no easement there. And so it's a much more valuable piece of property than it was if there was going to be an easement in there, whether it be an elevator or escalator. So I would hope that you will consider some contribution to the community. And if we stay with transit, it's possible that on 77th Street, on the east side of the avenue, we desperately need some access and wonder how we can work that out. That's my first question. The second question is, I thought when I was reading the application, is that on the 71st Street site, that's where the affordable was going to be. And in some ways, we call that the poor door, because I don't know if it's a co-op, a condo, or a rental that you're building, but the people who would access the building, the high rise, would be different. And so can you clarify for me what the 71st Street site is? I may have read it wrong. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a separate building. It is a separate building. And the floor area that's coming to the site from the offsite, from the offsite certificates is what generates the floor area. This small building may generate a small amount of additional floor area, but by having some affordable housing on the site, it also enables the site to take advantage of certain relaxed height relaxed height limits on the site. So that's one of the reasons why that building is located there.
So that building is going to be all affordable?
Right. It only has a few units, 4 units in that building.
Oh, that's where the 4 units, because
right.
I tried to look at it. But when you say height, isn't that, I don't know the address, so I don't know if that's an R8B or not, because there's a restriction on that height.
Right. So the zone has an FAR, right? There are FAR limits and there are height limits. And with it, when you're in a zone like an inclusionary housing zone or an R10 zone, if you are eligible to obtain additional FAR to get to that 12 FAR, zoning also builds in some rules that allow the height to be modified so you can use that FAR. So that's what happens on this site.
I'm going to want to take some time to explore that a little more, but how high is that building going?
The building will be 230 feet. It's a 20, I think it's a 21-story building with that would be 230 feet.
Wait, that's for the avenue?
The building on the corner of 72nd and 2nd Avenue.
No, I asked on the 71st Street side.
The little building.
The little building.
You want the height of the little building?
Yeah, the little building.
Okay, the little building I believe is 40 feet.
Oh, okay. You think it's not?
No, it's 40. I mean, look, again, okay. It's not a filed or approved plans, but it's projected at 40 feet.
Okay, and we'll hold you to it. If you're going to change things, we'd like to have you come back. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Can you build on 77th Street? Help us.
No, we don't own it.
Do you mean on 2nd or on Lex?
The one on Lexington on 77th Street on the east side of the avenue. We desperately need additional access. So maybe you could work with MTA on it.
But we don't, but
you don't own a good partner.
We don't own it, but I mean, if the MTA sees a I guess an access problem, there's a couple of where they can through eminent domain, they can take the property, they can pay the owner, or they may not need the whole property. Maybe there's a way they can eminent domain a portion of the property to get that easement volume, or they can wait and hope that someone will want to redevelop that site. And if it's in a transit area, then they can request or require that an easement volume be provided. But for someone who doesn't own the property, it's pretty remote from us. It would mean from the developer here. I don't see how the developer could be involved in that.
Okay, just was trying. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks. Let's go next to Adam Wald.
Thank you. And this is really just a comment. It's kind of address other people's concerns. I don't mean to speak for Shatreat or for Jordan, but my understanding, and I work in the industry, so I've been tracking this deal for several years, is that the prior owners acquired the inclusionary housing certificates from 321 East 60th Street, which is a 100% affordable development. It has 20 units, and I believe the AMIs are up to 60%. So when Rita, you're talking about your concerns about affordability, they're coming from a deeply affordable project. My understanding also is that the previous owners acquired the inclusionary for over $13 million, which is a substantial portion of the total development cost for this small 20-something thousand square foot building. So when it comes to providing affordability in the neighborhood, the purchase of the inclusionary housing certificates for this project, paid for a substantial portion of a 100% affordable building. If I'm wrong, if they're banking it and flipping them, then I'm wrong. But my understanding is they acquired these several years ago. And I would also point out that the four affordable units that they're putting on the property, because it's a condominium building, they are not doing 421A. So there will not be a tax abatement associated with this project. Whereas nearly all other affordable units developed in the neighborhood have some sort of tax abatement. Is that correct, Jordan?
I believe so. And I have a copy of that inclusionary housing certificate. So
do I. Somewhere.
And but again, I wasn't part of that acquisition. And
it was years ago. It was
many so that was not, that's why I don't feel comfortable speaking about, to the extent of what it's producing or spinning off. But I see that on this certificate that 321 East 60th Street, I see that as a site. But,
and just to follow up, is the reason for the affordable units to satisfy possession of the property from the existing tenants that were in 260 East 72nd Street?
I'm sorry, wait, I didn't hear the very beginning of what you said. I'm sorry.
Is the reason for the development of the 4 affordable units, since you do not need them for any density, is it to satisfy any possession issues with acquiring the site in connection with the previous stabilized or controlled tenants?
Yeah, I understand that. My understanding is that it's by providing, that it's about the height. I think I just mentioned that by providing some affordable on the site, it allows the development to unlock the height limits with respect to which you need if you're getting these offsite IH certificates.
And are any of the previous regulated tenants being relocated to the affordable building?
I don't know. I believe that building is completely vacant, and there's a demolition permit that has been issued by the Department of Buildings.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, let's go to Valerie Mason.
Thanks, everybody. I have a couple of questions and a couple of comments. You know, first I want to say that it was I am the president of the East 72nd Street Neighborhood Association, and everybody received the notice of this meeting up and down 72nd Street, which is great. But the type of information that everyone received caused more confusion than anything else, to be honest about it. Because it kept saying that it was an approval letter from the MTA. If you read the substance of the letter, it just says that they have no interest in an easement. It's not really approving anything. So just what I want to say is, I think that, and this doesn't really go to Shatreat primarily, but I think that, you know, having the experience with the 2nd Avenue subway is very short-sighted on the part of the MTA not to take an easement here. You know, I think Mr. Most pointed out that the only opportunity they will have to get another easement is if once this building is built, sometime in somebody's lifetime, it gets taken down again. And the experience with the 2nd Avenue subway was that the MTA had taken all their easements in all the wrong places. And it was only because there was no easement at the corner of 72nd and 2nd, where this building is going to go up, that caused this crazy hodgepodge of where you were going to look for an entrance about 12 years ago. And if there had been an easement, an expansive easement for that matter, on your corner, we might be looking at a completely different configuration of the entrances to the 2nd Avenue subway that are currently on 72nd and 2nd. So I'm really disappointed that the MTA, well, disappointed but not surprised, that the MTA has learned nothing from their 2nd Avenue experience at the corner of 72nd and 2nd, and at least retained some easement, because who knows, in the next 40 years, you know, excavation techniques may be changing, et cetera. And there might be an opportunity to put another elevator on that side, which would give more access to disabled people to the 2nd Avenue subway. And so it's within their rights to give you the opportunity not to have an easement. But again, I think we should go on record that I don't think that's such a great idea. The second thing I want to say is, I've had, and I know this doesn't have to do anything with your application, Mr. Most, but I'm hoping that you are in communication with the principals of Shatreat. I have to say, up until now, they have been a horrific neighbor, horrific. They are completely non-responsive since December of 2021, December 22nd to be exact. I noticed a family of rats coming out of the raised lot, and I immediately called Department of Health. They sent an inspector out to the property, and I called Shatreat about it, and they didn't call me back at all. I called the Department of Health, and they came out on January 4th, and they examined the entire empty lot, the whole red area that you're showing on your little chart here, and found multiple rat burrows. Since then, I have been calling, emailing, Councilmember Power's office has been involved, and Shatreat has been completely non-responsive. So I am begging you to get somebody at your client to remediate this horrible problem that is helping rats run rampant in our neighborhood. And I'll end with that. Thank you.
you have a response to that?
Okay, no, I mean, you're talking about what on the vacant, on the lot on 72nd Street behind?
Where you raised the St. John the Martyr Church all the way through to the convent. The Department of Health, and they sent letters to Shatreat and everything. I've been on the phone at least 25 times with various people from Shatreat, and they kept saying they were going to get back to me and call me. They never have. I know that the council member's office has reached out to them. Will Brightville has been copied on many of these emails, so he knows about the whole scenario. We have heard nothing. Radio silence.
I can speak to them.
And not to mention the fact also that because you don't have anybody in your storefronts, there's pigeon poop, which is completely unsanitary all over the place, and no one has cleaned it for at least 6 months. So you might want to mention that to them as well.
Will do.
Because this does not bode well for the construction. That's all I can say. And if that's imminent, the problem will only get worse. So I appreciate it if you could reach out to them and maybe get back to Will Brightville with any update on when this remediation is going to occur. Because it's not a great way to start off in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, let's go next to Barry Schneider.
Good evening. I'd like to call the question and thank Adam and Valerie for their comments.
Is there a second?
Rebecca.
Okay.
And Gordon.
Any opposed to calling the question?
I'm going to lower all the hands. If you're opposed to calling the question, please raise your hand.
Okay, let's go to the vote. I'll turn it over to secretaries.
Please raise your hand if you'd like to vote no, abstain, or not vote for cause. Okay, sorry, I realized it on paper. Elaine Walsh.
No.
Alita Camp.
Abstain.
Peter Patch.
Abstain.
Barbara Rudder.
Abstain.
Carrie Weiner.
No.
Valerie Mason.
No.
Marco Tamayo.
With the apologies to the chairman, I would like to say, please,
you gotta just vote. You gotta just vote.
Yeah, that is very small. Please accept my deepest condolences for the loss of your grandmother. And the answer is no. Thank you.
Anthony.
I'm going to go scan it, come back down. This still.
You don't have to put it down. I took
No.
it to another time. And what do I do?
Rita.
No.
Chuck.
Not voting for cause.
What's the cause?
Shatreat is a client of our firm, which I just recently found out.
Thank you. Lynn?
Nope.
Andrea?
No.
Elise?
Abstain.
Ed?
Abstain.
Michelle?
Abstain.
Last call.
I believe the motion carried, but I'll get a final tally for you all in a second.
Yeah, let's just give it a minute here and count it out. And I'll use
Wilma,
this time to
just really quickly.
Wilma
Sorry,
voting?
Wilma.
Yeah, go ahead.
You want to? Wilma Johnson. Yeah, there you go.
Yes. No.
Thank you.
Got that. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt you, Russell.
That's it. That's okay. I was going to remind everybody that there's an art show coming up June 11th, and there is still time to submit art for it for any local artists who would like to participate. The deadline is May 20th if you want to submit your art and show it on James Cagney Place on June 11th.
All right, I have the final tally. The motion carried with a vote of 19 yes, 9 no, 6 abstentions, and 1 not voting for cause.
Okay, thank you. So let's move to the next item, which is the special permit renewal. And we will turn it over to Judy Gallant.
Hi, I still see Jordan's stuff. Okay. Hi, I'm Judy Gallant from Brian K. Leighton Paisner on behalf of 19 East 72nd Street Corporation. This is an application to renew a special permit that was previously granted by the City Planning Commission pursuant to zoning resolution 74-711 to allow use group 6 commercial uses with the exception of eating and drinking establishments in a portion of the ground floor of the building located at East 72nd Street that's located in a residential district. So I'm going to share my screen and hold on, I'm having trouble finding my thing. Here it is. Okay. So here is a photograph of the building. The special permit was granted in October of 2017. And since that time, the applicant has completed a portion of the work on the space in accordance with the city planning approved special permit and the LPC Landmarks Preservation Commission approved plans in anticipation of leasing the space for a use that would be permitted by the special permit. It engaged Cushman and Wakefield to market the space, and prior to the expiration of the special permit in October of 2021, Cushman had showed the space to more than 50 prospective tenants. The building was actually finalizing a lease with a prospective tenant, pursuant to which the special permit work and LPC work would have been undertaken when the pandemic shutdown occurred in March of 2020. And as a result, it lost that tenant. Showings were not permitted, as you may recall. And when they were allowed to resume, demand was significantly impacted, as you may remember, by the ongoing pandemic. Because the building has been unable to achieve substantial construction on the space, which in this case requires a TCO, a temporary certificate of occupancy, by the special permit lapse date of October 26th of 2021, a renewal is required. Interest in the space has now picked up, and the building has had serious interest from appropriate retail tenants. In order to grant the renewal, the City Planning Commission must find that the facts upon which the special permit was granted have not substantially changed. And as I will explain, they have not. So here you can see a map of the Upper East Side Historic District. The building at issue is shown in red. And on the right is a tax map. The building is located on the northwest corner of 72nd and Madison in the Upper East Side Historic District. It has 104 feet of frontage on Madison and 140 feet of frontage on East 72nd Street. And as you can see with this red line, the zoning lot is split by a zoning district boundary between the C51 district within Special Madison over here. And Madison, it runs along Madison Avenue. The C51 district is mapped to a depth of 100 feet. And on the other side of the zoning district boundary line is an R10 district within the Special Park Improvement District, which begins 100 feet west of Madison Avenue. This is a photograph of the ground floor of the building showing the portion of the building that's at issue in the special permit. So the area that's subject to the special permit is just a portion of the ground floor located to the west of the lobby entrance. You can see the lobby entrance with this green awning that says 19. The first 23 feet west of the lobby entrance, if you can see my cursor from the awning over to this dashed red line, is located in a commercial district, a C5-1 district, and it consists of these 3 windows that were part of a space that had once been a doctor's office that has been vacant for many years. And the remaining 40 feet from this red line to the left is located in an R10 district. And it contains the door to the former doctor's office, as you can see here, and 1 window that was part of that doctor's office, as well as these 3 windows, which were windows of the super's apartment. The super wished to move to the rear of the building because his apartment, as you can see, is right on 72nd Street with windows at eye level, and it's both noisy and lacking in privacy. The former doctor's office had been vacant for a number of years prior to the special permit being granted in 2017. And the special permit allowed the conversion of this space, the doctor's office, as well as the adjacent super's apartment, to a single 2,314 square foot retail store, 478 square feet of which over here is located in a commercial district in which it's as of right, and 1,836 square feet of which is located in the R10 district where it's not as of right, and that's why the special permit was required. The special permit allowed a modification of use. It was not a rezoning, just a modification of use for this particular area to the left of the red line. So while retail use is permitted in the C5 district over here, the portion of the space located in the C5 district doesn't have a door. As you can see, the door is actually in the R10 district. So as a result of that, the C5 commercially zoned space can't be accessed for any as of right commercial use unless a door would be constructed in the C5 zone. And this would of course entail alteration of the historic fabric of the building. Retail use, as I said, is not permitted in the 1,800 or so square foot portion of the space in the R10 zone, but the entire space, the 2,300 square feet bounded by this rectangle here, can be used as of right as a medical facility, including a clinic or an urgent care facility or a physical therapy office as a community use, a community facility use, which is allowed in both the commercial and the residential district. And the building just felt that those types of intense uses with a lot of comings and goings would not be appropriate either to the building or the surrounding area, and that a boutique would be less intrusive and more compatible with the block and the neighborhood. In addition, a medical office and a residence like the super's residence, as you can see here, in this location would of necessity always have its blinds drawn. In fact, you can see the super's apartment does have its blinds drawn because of the need for privacy. And that essentially creates dead space in the streetscape. And by contrast, the retail use permitted by the special permit would activate the ground floor and result in the replacement of these old windows over here and removal of these through the window air conditioning units, improving the appearance of the building. You can see here that some of these windows, 4 of the 7 here, here, and here, have already been replaced by windows approved by the Landmarks Commission. So in order to grant the renewal of the special permit, the original special permit, the commission was required to make only one finding, and that is that the proposed use modification would have minimal adverse effects on conforming uses in the building and the surrounding area. And in its report, the commission concluded that the proposed retail use with its small size, the restriction on eating and drinking establishments, that could not locate here, discrete LPC approved, non-illuminated signage, which was strictly limited in size, fronting on a wide street, a wide sidewalk and a wide street. The sidewalk is 19 feet to 22 feet and buffered from the street by these existing plantings, which would remain, and with recessed store windows would have a minimal or a non-adverse effect on the character and feel of the area. Here you can see, as you're familiar with, the context of the building. This is the building over here. This is 72nd Street from Madison looking west to Central Park, 72nd Street from 5th Avenue looking east. In making its decision, the commission noted that 72nd Street is not a quiet residential street. but rather a busy crosstown 100-foot wide street with 4 moving lanes of traffic, 2 parking lanes, and even a crosstown bus route. That it is also one of the main entrances to Central Park, and that the proposed retail store would be similar to the shops on Madison Avenue just around the corner. In addition, the building is located in the city's highest density residential district, so it's not in a quiet, low density residential district. And there's retail in close proximity on both sides of East 72nd Street in a district where retail and residential uses coexist and intermingle seamlessly. As you know, along Madison, there's retail on the ground floor with residential above. It's a district that understands the sort of mixed use nature, retail and residential coexisting. The proposed retail store would also be contiguous to the special Madison Avenue Preservation District, which runs along Madison to a depth of 100 feet. So it's just adjacent to that. And one of the purposes of the special Madison Avenue Preservation District is to preserve and enhance street life by promoting specialty shops at street level. That's a quote, like the one permitted by the special permit. The special permit allows a 40-foot extension of retail use contiguous to this special commercial district on a block that's 420 feet long, which is it's a relatively minor waiver in this context. A traffic study was undertaken in response to concerns raised by some on Community Board 8 when the special permit was granted. It showed that the proposed retail use as compared to an as-of-right medical facility would result in either no change or fewer vehicular trips, depending on the day and the hour, and a negligible increase in pedestrian trips. Due to the pandemic, if a traffic study were undertaken today, it would actually show even less pedestrian and vehicular traffic attributable to the retail use. But due to the supposedly transitory nature of the pandemic, it may not feel like it's so transitory right now, but DOT requires the use of pre-pandemic traffic data in demand forecasts. So you can't take advantage of the pandemic to say there's even less traffic, because that's, we hope, not a permanent condition. One of the applicant's goals for the proposed retail store is to avoid any negative change to the architecture. This photo rendition illustrates the changes that were approved unanimously by the Landmarks Commission and City Planning to accommodate the retail tenant, and it consists of changing 7 windows, three in the commercial zone and 4 in the residential zone, from double hung, as you can see here in the Supers apartment, to single light, as you can see here, and adding a very modest amount of signage, retail signage less than 8 square feet in the residential zone. It would just be decal lettering on the windows themselves, nothing on the building, as well as a small bronze pole sign. I have a better picture of the pole sign, which I'll show you in a moment. The initial proposal that was submitted to LPC back in 2016 when we were applying for the special permit included awnings over these windows, like awnings that are similar to the ones on Madison Avenue for the Frederick Mall perfume store, which is also located in this building. It included awnings and it included bronze lettering over the windows and at the door. But the applicant heard the concerns of Community Board 8 about those elements, and the awnings and signage above the windows were removed and were not approved as part of the application. They were removed before the vote in response to Community Board 8. Here you can see the small bronze pole sign that is also part of what was approved by the Landmarks Commission as appropriate to the historic district. These existing planted areaways in front of the retail windows would remain, and they serve as a buffer between the retail space and the pedestrians. And as you can see, the combination of the small and recessed windows, the very restricted signage compared to what had been originally proposed, the discrete location off of Madison Avenue, all of these things will really limit the type of tenant that will want the space, as well as traffic coming in and out of the space. So in summary, the facts upon which the City Planning Commission granted the special permit have not changed. And the building believes that this sort of grand entry to Central Park, just to the west, would be enhanced more by a proposed discrete boutique than an as-of-right medical office or urgent care facility. The boutique would not only be compatible and appropriate with the area, but it would also create an improved pedestrian experience and streetscape. And I would, of course, be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Okay, so Anthony Cohn.
Okay, thank you. It was a fine presentation. I think this, to me, is one of the very finest buildings of its vintage in the entire city. There is nothing more magnificent than the limestone on the ground floor. This is a great building by Rosario Candela and Mott Schmidt, and the entrance sculptures by Paul Genuine are magnificent, and we should all be thankful this building is here and you're not proposing to do anything terrible to it. I think the renewal of the special permit, as far as I'm concerned, should be unanimous. This building is so good and so strong that as long as you don't sort of create great big new windows on the ground floor, but new store windows on the ground floor, you can't harm it in any way. Thank you.
Can I just address that? Because this is in the historic district, any change to the building has to be approved by the Landmarks Commission. So what was approved is what you see here, and that's all.
No, I know that. I know that.
Okay. I'm just reassuring you.
It's fine. I am not at all worried. This is really terrific.
All right, let's go next to Michelle Birnbaum.
Yeah, I mostly agree with Anthony, and I can see why this is a solution. And I am in support of renewing the 74-711. However, I would suggest that because there's a sign outside of the entrance and because of product that is in the window, it defines what the space is. And so I question the need for additional signage in the windows. I don't think you need it. You know, that's obvious that it's a front door, and it's obvious that single pane windows with a product in it tells you that that is the retail store. So I don't think that you need the signage. I would prefer that the additional window signage be eliminated. Thank you.
Let's go next to Valerie Mason.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I just want to get some clarification on your statement about no food or drink on the premises. Is that from the building, or is that by virtue of the special district?
It was actually a condition of the city planning approval. So that the building, frankly, felt that wouldn't be so appropriate either. They didn't want smells and things wafting up into the apartments, but it's actually a condition of the approval.
And then once you get the special permit, is that in perpetuity or is that renewable?
Once you get the special permit and you vest, it would be in perpetuity. Okay. But the condition would also be in perpetuity.
Mm-hmm. And I know this is somewhat of an unfair question, but you have a tenant, a building owner across the street from you, which isn't, not as historically significant as this building. Obviously, it's all fake, but it's supposed to look like it's original. And they have an outdoor cafe. And was that part of a special permit? And how did they get around that?
I can't really speak to it because I haven't studied the zoning. It's possible that is viewed as accessory to the store, but I don't know. That's something that would have to be.
I'm just wondering why city planning would say that was a condition for this side, but not the other side.
At the time, actually, it was Councilmember Gorodnick, now chair of the City Planning Commission, who pushed on that issue. And the City Planning Commission accepted. We met with him before the city planning vote. He made it clear that he would not want to see that there. The building thought that made sense. And so we modified our application to include that condition. So city planning, in a sense, didn't have to foist it on us. We volunteered.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Let's go next to Marco Tamayo.
Thank you, Russell. I remember very well. Before I say anything, I think Anthony, what he described very well. I absolutely agree. Not only that, I had to add something else. My impression is, I follow carefully Rosario Candela, and my impression in this type of architecture, this is the transition between classic architecture and modern architecture, because the elements that they put it over there is extraordinary. And I was in shock when I saw my first time walking in on the Upper East Side of that building. It's actually well done, well conceived. So being said that, and that's was my condition, was that I was opposed these applications in Landmark. I was opposed also in the community board for this application. Now, you said that in 2017 was granted this application, and since 2017 to the present 5 years, you were unable to obtain the CO. Well, let me tell you, it's 2,500 square feet. I can do it. Very simple, probably in less than a year. But the point is, my point is not in that direction. My point is, you have been hunting to change the use for medical facility to a commercial facility. And that's basically you has been delaying, and that's I think is wrong. And definitely I'm gonna keep maintaining consistent what I said before, and I'm gonna vote no in this application, even I can be alone. Thank you.
Let's go next to Barbara Rutter, please.
I'd like to move to approve this application.
Is there a second?
Barry Schneider.
Okay. Do you want to speak to your motion? You don't have to.
Oh, I think what Anthony said convinced me that it would be wonderful. Okay. I think this would be a better application than medical.
All right, let's go next to Anthony Cohn.
Okay, just very quickly, I think Valerie was referring to the Ralph Lauren store on the corner of Madison, which is entirely within the commercial district of the avenue, the C whatever it is, which permits eating and drinking establishments as part of the use group 6. And so there is no danger that this particular retail establishment will become a food establishment or an accessory use to the food establishment. It's really that the zoning is so completely different that it just wouldn't happen. Anyway, that was it.
Thank you. All right, we now have some hands from folks who have not spoken yet, so I'm going to go to Rebecca Dangor.
I was going to call to question, but I don't want to prevent anyone from speaking. I think, oh, okay, I'm calling to question. Oh, Michelle wants to speak, so I'm going to hold and
Michelle's
state my
spoken already, but well, okay, let's go to Michelle and then we'll have the question called, so that's fine.
Yeah, thank you, Russell. The reason, what I would like to suggest, because we have to vote on the application that is before us, and I don't think the representative here has the right to comment on the signage without going back to whoever. So I would like to ask, can this be broken into 2 parts? One, the approval of, basically as described, of the renewal of the 74-711, and then B, approving of the signage in the windows or not. I would appreciate that because I would like to support this application, but I think that there is a possibility that they will or may agree to to reduce the signage, and I would like to have that opportunity to express that.
I think the signage, and the applicant can correct me, sorry, I think the signage is a landmarks issue. So the signage has been approved by the landmarks, and I'll go to the applicant who can clarify that.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. I just wanted to clarify one thing, and I don't know if it was clear. This is a photo montage. It's not real. So this product that you see in the windows, that's an architect's rendering of what could be there, but it's not necessarily what will be there. So I understand your point, Ms. Birnbaum. If this is actually what developed, you're saying that these bags in the window speak very clearly as to what this is, no sign needed, but it wouldn't necessarily be this, is all I'm saying. And you're absolutely right, Chair. The signage was approved by the Landmarks Commission. Originally, there was bronze lettering above the windows that we withdrew that and just ended up with decal lettering on 4 of the 7 windows, only 2 of which are in the residential district. So, you know, I do think that there is some benefit to the wayfinding aspect. And, you know, again, you're right. I haven't obviously spoken to my client because that issue had not been raised previously. In 2017, it was not raised.
So, yeah.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, I understand, but we can assume, however, that because you put in single pane windows and because it's a retail store, that the reason to have those see-through windows is so because product will be in them and will define the space. Can we assume that that's true, whether it's a handbag store or any other store? Otherwise, you wouldn't mind having double hung and not having you know, visibility into the space. Yeah. So I think we can assume that. I don't know if you don't want to break it up, Russell. I fully understand that. But I also want to say that just because the Landmarks Commission approved this at the staff level does not mean that we are not able to comment on it.
Well, wait, it was approved actually at the commission level. This required a certificate of appropriateness. So it went to a hearing at the Landmarks Commission and was approved unanimously. I do want to speak to this issue of the single light versus double hung. Double hung windows are not the vocabulary of retail. And so that's why it was changed. But I could imagine, let's say there was a clothier in the space. It could be that just there might not be product right at the window. It's possible, just someone might not want to put those little stands there. And so it's hard to say, but I do think that the signage is really, really minimal for a store if you look around. And it was something that Landmarks very, you know, thought about and really limited. So I would urge you to accept this so that a retailer isn't dissuaded from locating here because they feel like there isn't enough wayfinding.
And just one other point is, you know, to the extent, I mean, we're here as the land use committee looking at this, you know, in terms of the special permit from a land use perspective. So to the extent that the board would get into the question of the signage or whatever, that would be a Landmarks issue that would, you know, be discussed at Landmarks.
Understood.
All right, so Rebecca has called the question. Is there a second?
Hey.
Rami seconds. Okay, so hands up for anybody who objects to calling the question. All right, so let's turn it over to the secretaries.
Thank you, Russell. If you're voting no, abstaining, or not voting for a cause on the motion to approve, please raise your hand. Marco?
Thank you. No.
Anyone else? One more second. Seeing none, motion carries 35-1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. All right, let's now move to committee reports. So we have 2 this evening. The first is the Roosevelt Island Committee. So we will go to Paul and Lynn.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'll try to make this as quickly as possible. On Roosevelt Island, in our north section, we had at one time a road called Road 10. At the time that the Octagon apartment buildings were built, that road was removed and a comparable road was not put in its stead. So we started investigating the potential of having the east-west road reestablished on the north end of our island. What that facilitates is access from the west side of the island to the east side. So this is east-west egress. And what currently, if you're on the west side of the island and you want to go to our red bus or to the comfort station that is located on Main Street, which is on the west side of the island, there is no direct route to get there. So that's what this road is proposing, and it's specifically to help facilitate safety issues for EMS and fire trucks to go back and forth from the west to east side. And it also would help facilitate people with mobility issues to get from the east to the west side. So did you want to add anything, Paul?
I want to add one thing, Lynn. Thank you. I only moved to Roosevelt Island about 2 years ago, so I'm still learning about the place. But one thing I learned very quickly was, and Lynn will correct my numbers here, I'm sure I'll get them a little bit wrong. I think there are something like 12 to 14,000 people who live here on Roosevelt Island. And I think something like 300 or 400 of those have serious or have mobility issues, some of them very serious. And many of those people live in the COLA facility. So that should make it very clear to you, I hope, why it's not just getting a bit of road because it's nice to have a place to walk across or to get across. A lot of people here rely on surfaces being flat and smooth and even and well maintained to get around, especially around that part of the island. That's where COLA is as well.
Great, thank you. But yeah, Paul, that was perfect.
I have a question about the relationship between the first bullet and the second bullet in the resolve clause, because the first one is talking about road 10 and the second one is talking about the half road. Is the idea that the completion of the half road would reestablish road 10, or is that a separate? Okay. So
let me clarify that if I can. The place where the road 10 is a little further north than what we're proposing the completion of the half road. So we have an access area for the DEP to the water tunnel. And so they created a half road to help facilitate the service of that. So what we're asking is that they complete the half road. So it's not even creating a whole new road, it's completing a road that's halfway completed. And the property itself that they were requesting that be done on is the Roosevelt Island Operating Corporation's property. So what we're asking is that they move the fence that is currently there for the DEP site over a little bit, which actually would help facilitate getting the kids who play on our field a little further away, literally the distance of the road and a fence from where it is now. And I appreciate that it may be really hard for people to visualize this. And unfortunately, I wasn't able, there's a gentleman that works for the Roosevelt Island Operating Corporation who does incredible presentations. And I unfortunately didn't get a chance to ask him to kind of present this visually for you all here. So I apologize that I'm trying to do this with giving you verbal pictures. And Paul, are you okay if we go ahead and call on Barbara? Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn.
Go ahead, Barbara.
I had the joy of getting a tour with Lynn. Lynn, correct me if I'm wrong. So at first I didn't understand, and I know it's much easier to say what's on 72nd Street and Madison Avenue than is to understand this area. But when we took the red bus to the Nellie Bly puzzle statues, which I suggest everybody goes to, it's the most amazing structures that are there. We had a very long walk, and I believe that this road, am I right, Lynn, that this road would make the bus go closer to this sculpture, and also the church that's now converted into a restaurant.
So yes, Barbara. So yes to part of your question and no to part of your question. So the red bus currently, when it's going north, goes past this bus stop and goes to what's it called, the Octagon apartment building. And then you can get off the bus there and continue to walk north. If you're over, like you said, at the sanctuary, which is the name of the beautiful venue that's been created here on Roosevelt Island, there isn't an easy facilitated egress from the west side of the island to what we call the promenade on the from the east side of the island over to the west side of the island. And what we're proposing with this road is not only that there, because as the half road exists now, there is a road plus a sidewalk. And what we're proposing is that that's what gets continued fully, the full length of the community, and that the half road be fully extended to what is already a parking area that's associated with the sanctuary venue.
So we will have to help with the access to that.
Exactly.
I totally support it. And I urge everybody to go and see this. It's the puzzle. What is it called? The puzzle, what?
The Girl Puzzle.
The Girl Puzzle about Nellie Bly. It's 4 or 5 different statues that with audio, and it's unbelievable. And if we could get there closer,
and Paul is praying that I don't get started talking about the Girl Puzzle because I so passionately love it. So let me move on to Chuck. Chuck, did you have a question?
I wanted to call a question unless somebody else would. I don't know if Lynn Cashman wanted to talk, but I wanted to call a question.
So if we could have Lynn and Marco speak briefly and then go to the question. Thank you.
Hi, yes, the Nellie Bly puzzle is fabulous. I wanted to ask whether, has the lighthouse been completed? Because you had a crane there for quite a while, which took away, unfortunately, from the overall view.
So to your question, Lynn, yes, it has been finished. But
yeah, let's limit this to the resolution. Yeah.
I'm totally on. Yeah. Okay. Marco?
I would like to call the question. Okay, to second the question, I'm sorry. Second the question. The question has been called. Thank you.
So I believe the question has been called. If you.
Yeah, let's turn it over to the secretaries. Unless anyone's opposed. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, greetings all. Please raise your hands if you're voting no, abstaining, or not voting for cause. Give a few more seconds. It appears it passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right, let's go next to the Street Life Committee, and we will turn it over to Abraham.
I do not believe Abraham is here.
Okay. All right. Is Kaz here?
He is.
Let's unmute Kaz. Maybe Kaz and I will do this together.
Yeah, these are 4 unanimous or 5 unanimous. They're all unanimous, nothing controversial. So any questions?
So there are some hands up, and we could certainly do motion to take them all together if people want to, but let's go to Marco Tamayo. 5 unanimous items.
I would like to call the question for all unanimous, which is all of them.
Yeah. So I see some seconds there.
I see Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to or objection, I should say, to calling all of them together?
No.
Michelle, no, Michelle's hand is down, so we're good. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that.
If you'd like to vote no, abstain, or not vote for cause, please raise your hand. Seeing none, the items passed unanimously with a vote of 35 to 0 to 0.
Thanks, Russell. Right.
Sure.
Motion to adjourn.
Wait a minute. We have one more item here, which is there was a resolution. One of the items that we passed at Street Life last month did not incorporate the the stipulations that we had actually agreed on in the committee and that the applicant had agreed to. And so it hasn't been taken up by the SLA yet. So we're just going to do a revised resolution that incorporates those stipulations and send that instead. But since we had passed the other version, this requires a vote of the board. So it is and Will, can you just remind me the nature of the stipulations? It had to do with closing times. Is that right?
Yes, the backyard space had historically had a 10 p.m. close. They asked for a 2 a.m. close during the meeting, and the Street Life Committee asked them to close the backyard at midnight. The applicant agreed to that, but it wasn't reflected in the resolution. And so this is just going to put that clause into the resolution.
All right, so I believe that item had passed uncontroversially at the committee. So yes, Rebecca.
I guess move to.
It's a resolution that's on there already, so you can.
Yes. So call the question.
Okay, is there a second? Yes, I see a bunch of seconds. So anyone opposed to calling the question?
If your hand is still up, I'm going to assume that you're opposed.
It doesn't mean. So the question's been called. Let's go now to the secretaries.
If you're voting no, abstaining, or not voting for cause, please raise your hand. Marco?
Yes, I oppose this application and I might end in that. Thank you.
So you're voting no?
Yes.
Okay. Chuck?
No.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, the motion carries 33 to 2.
All right, thank you. Okay, so that is it for the committee reports, and we don't have any old business. And I see Rami has his hand up. New business.
If there's no new business, I'll yield to Marco after, but motion to adjourn.
Marco, go ahead.
Respectfully, if I'm not wrong, Robert rules said you have to use the 3 Ds: disclose, debate, and do no vote for cause. So it has to disclose, then debate, and then do no vote for cause. I think, with the respect of the fellow community member, didn't follow these rules. Thank you.
Okay. If you want to, I'm frankly not sure what you're referring to, but if you want to just email me what you meant, that would be helpful. So Rami's moved to adjourn. Is there a second? Yep, I see it. Anyone opposed to adjourning? No. All right. Thank you, everybody. See you all next week.